This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. The cooking of dog meat on social media upsets many. Birds are set free but are dying in their droves. And a killer rapes and strangles a pregnant woman, but he finds no place to hide. But firstly, to our headline story, and it is all about dog meat. It seems it has been quite a trend of late to post videos of ladies cooking dog meat. And here on your screen now is a single still from one of those videos. Now what we can see very clearly is two lovely ladies, one slightly more lovelier than the other, and both are very beautifully turned out. And right next to them is a dead dog, and they are cutting into it and then cooking it. Now, this is a subject that will divide many, as it can be very well argued that this is a cultural thing. And why not? Eating dog, after all, is just another animal, much as eating a chicken or a pig. Well, the Director General of CMAC has said that he was really shocked and deeply saddened by the fact that these days he sees many Cambodian women cooking and eating dog meat and then posting these videos on social media. He said that his own group, CMAC, has always cared for dogs and considers dogs to be loyal colleagues who are often saving lives, as they are used to sniff out explosives. And he would like a national law banning the eating of all dog meat. I now see both sides of this story. Yes, it is a cultural thing, but also dogs are loyal companions, and we should repay that loyalty by not eating them. So how do we decide this debate? Well, here on your screen is a series of photos for you. And as I show them, I will expose the hidden side of the dog meat trade. These photos were taken recently in Banteay Minche province at one market, where 300 dogs a day are killed every single day. And they are then sent to other provinces in Cambodia. They suffer terribly being locked in cramped cages for days at a time. It is simply inhumane. But what happens next is utterly barbaric. As the cages stuffed with dogs are thrown into boiling water and the dogs drown in unimaginable agony. Now think about that. Being in a cage and drowning in boiling water. You yelp in pain and boiling water floods your throat and your lungs. That is a pain beyond imagination. Now, the reason they die such horrific deaths is because it is easier to remove the fur from the dog. So let us now go back to those ladies dressed oh so nicely, and let's look at their dog again. And now you know how that dog died and why it has no fur on it. Just maybe you can make a more informed choice. Are you for a ban on dog meat, like 90% of Cambodians? Or is this all just tradition? In this week's Crime Desk, something very odd happens in a school bus, leaving one child dead. A murder so foul is committed in a forest, and unaccountable drugs discovered by a police station. For our first story this week, allow me to show you the headline of the story itself, and we will read it together, and you tell me what is rather odd here. The headline reads, "Schoolboy dies of suffocation after being trapped in a school bus for 4 hours." Now, when I saw that as a headline, I said, what? How do you suffocate in a bus over such a short period? That, to me, makes no sense. But let us delve into this mystery and see what we can deduce from the scant facts we have at hand. You see, at current, a police investigation into the death of the 4-year-old boy is ongoing. And apparently, he suffocated to death after being trapped in that school bus. The tragic incident took place one afternoon last week in Kompong Tom province. What the authorities are saying is the boy was a student at a private school, and on the day of the tragedy, the driver had transported him as well as other children to the school as was normal at 1 p.m. However, the now dead child had somehow become trapped on the bus, and his absence from school was not noticed by any teachers. At the close of the school day at 4:30, just 3.5 hours later, he was discovered and rushed to hospital, but was pronounced dead on arrival. Now, that simply makes no sense to a lot of people. A bus that has a bare minimum of 3 doors, and for some reason, the child does not attract any attention, but quietly dies. Many are saying something is not quite right with this story, but unfortunately, that's as far as this tale goes for now, as the driver responsible for this negligence, or maybe a whole load more, is now on the run. If I hear any more on this intriguing case, I will be sure to keep you posted. Here is a quick short story for you that is rather intriguing. You tell me, where is the most surprising place you may come across a stash of illegal drugs? Well, a church may be an odd place, or you often hear of these cases where packets of drugs wash up on foreign beaches. Well, how about this for an oddity? An investigation has been launched after 300 packets of illegal drugs were found right next to a police station in Phnom Penh. Unsurprisingly, an official investigation has been launched after the discovery of 304 packages of ecstasy were found right next to a fence of a police station in central Phnom Penh. Authorities have stated that an officer found the 3 large bags containing the drugs, and when they were tested, the pills were discovered to be MDMA, more commonly known as ecstasy. And this was no small amount, as in total they weighed 2.5 kilos. Now, I had to do some maths, and that is about 10,000 pills with a street value of $200,000, laying by a fence next to a police station. I told you it was odd. Now, is this a case of a drug dealer handing in his gear on a whim of conscience? Or did an officer get waylaid on his way to the evidence locker? As of yet, we do not know, but an investigation is underway. To close our crime desk this week, we have a really gruesome murder that has all the echoes of an old black and white movie. A man has been arrested for the brutal murder and rape of a pregnant woman, and this one does read like a horror story. An innocent lady, maybe too trusting, that was 5 months pregnant, was led into a forest. And there, amongst the silence of the trees, she was savagely beaten and then raped by her assailant. The incident happened in Kandal province. The murderer himself was a rural farmer, as was his victim. And after raping this poor woman, the murderer then slowly strangled this innocent lady to death, not taking 1 life, but 2. And when he had used this woman in his depraved manner, he set fire to her body. And then he fled to Phnom Penh to try and find anonymity in the crowds. But the police were on to him, and he has now been arrested, and he is staring not into the eyes of a helpless victim that he so coldly strangled, but into the eyes of a judge that will send him to jail for an awful long time for killing a young woman and her unborn baby. We started this newscast with the unimaginable cruelty to dogs, and we will be ending it with a subject that makes me want to scream with unbridled anger. And that is the cruel habit of capturing wild birds, caging them, and then people paying to release them. Now, this can be seen at many pagodas and shrines, and I'm fully aware that it is a tradition that wild birds are dragged out of their habitat and shoved into cages. They are then transported countless miles, waiting for some person to pay money to release them, and then carry good wishes and alike towards the sky. Now, here is the problem with this. Up to 90% of those birds that have been taken out of their environment do not soar into the deep blue sky, carrying the wishes ever upwards. They, in fact, die. They die for no reason whatsoever, because some people believe that this is a cute and nice thing to do. Well, here's the truth. You may as well take the bird out of the cage and stamp on its head. And if I was to kill a bird in that way, I would be called evil. But guess what? Paying for a bird and releasing it has exactly the same end result. And the Anchor Centre for Conservation of Biodiversity has expressed deep concerns, saying that up to 90% of birds do not survive, but this ritual is causing the decline of many bird species. Now allow me to explain what so many are missing here. If you take a bird and just snatch it out of its habitat, and then you throw it into a cage with a load of other birds, some are going to be its mortal enemies, and you then put that cage with a heap load of other cages into a back of a van, and you travel for many, many miles. Have a guess what is going to happen to that bird. It is going to be completely stressed and utterly frightened. And when you release it into an environment it knows nothing about, it will die. Now, I know this is a tradition, and I feel it should be upheld, but what we need is birds caught within the area that can be released and will happily return again and again, not to use wild birds, especially migrating birds, as it has had a devastating effect on the dwindling bird population that is already under siege from deforestation. These birds are already in the fight for their lives, and the Centre of Biodiversity wants these birds not to be killed by good wishes, but left to be free of all human interference. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week. Right, microphone on, check it's gone blue, scroll to the beginning, press the expand button, and press pause. Right, here we go. What we got? 30 degrees. Oh, I say, it's getting warmer, isn't it? 0 chance of rain. The humidity's crawling up, though, isn't it? Have you noticed? It's up in the 70% range, but right across the board, it's the same old story. It's sun, it's clouds, but no rain. It's that humidity that's going to get you in a grumpy mood, though. This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly Roundup.